Good morning, Dick One, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Dick 2.
I bet you haven't been called Dick One for a few weeks.
I've been called Dick for a while, actually.
No. I was asked the other day, actually.
Like me.
I met someone the other day and they said, "Can I call you Rich, Richard, or Dick?" And I was like, "Let's stick with Rich or Richard. Shall we?"
Just say, you choose, and then you'll judge by my reaction which one I prefer.
Which one is the acceptable answer?
Yeah. You'll find out very quickly.
Yeah, we don't mess around on that one. Good Christmas, New Year.
Yeah, pretty quiet. Santa delivered a lurgy to me, finally. But I won't go on about it.
No, because I'm sure we've got a previous episode, which is 90% you talking about being ill.
That was a while ago. That was in the summer, though, which was a bit weird.
That was the summer cold, yeah.
Summer lurgy.
Summer finally got a winter one.
Yeah.
So, but good.
You? What did Father Christmas chuck down your chimney?
Not a lot. Not a lot. Very quiet one. Most family were away. My other half obviously flies, so she went to America for a few days before and Vancouver a couple of days after, and been up to Durham or just outside Durham for New Year.
Quite a good talent, that, isn't it? It's one of those things that if you say what superpower could you have, flying would be quite
flying. Cool. I think flying would be cool.
When you say to people that your other half flies, what do they say? Do they look a bit?
Not a lot, because most of them are quite sensible and understand that means an aeroplane as opposed to flapping her arms and taking off.
Like me, that has this image of your other half going.
Yeah. But no, so yeah, we had a fairly quiet one. So I don't mind that every so often.
Apart from the storms making it quite noisy.
Yeah, they weren't the best, were they? And obviously we picked going up to Durham on the day of the storm, so a nice countryside walk where you couldn't see 20 foot in front of your face, and it was direct horizontal rain.
A hillside walk
straight at you.
When you're going, where's the grandpa?
So, lovely countryside views that you couldn't see from their house and everything. It was lovely. So, but it was a good laugh. Played Cards Against Humanity for the first time.
Did you?
Yes.
We played Badmouth, and if you want to learn some new phrases and swear words, that you go, what does that mean? It's quite good.
I might have to try that one then.
It's funny. It's a bit samey, but you can change it up. So we use more cards than you're supposed to maybe give you more options.
Yeah.
You can come up with some absolute corkers. I won't repeat some of the words on here because obviously
the people we were with were also, they had a card game called Served, and basically you get 2 packs of cards, and one person, you have 1 pack each. You don't show the other person, but at any point, kind of in the week or the month or the year, depending on your timescale, you can serve them a card, and it will just have something that they have to do on it. So Jason got served one that said you've got 10 minutes to get ready, and obviously if you do it, you keep the card, and if you don't do it, the other person gets the card. End of the month, whoever's got the most cards, the other has to forfeit. But they also had one that was swap your course at dinner. So we'd gone out for an Italian meal, and one had kind of potato wedges with garlic dip, and one had ham. And he served the swap your meal card, and he took the wedges off it and sat in at those because they look quite nice.
That's funny, isn't it? You order something, have that in your back pocket, and order something you know someone doesn't like, and then just go.
Yeah. And then serve them the card. Luckily, they did like the other thing that was there, but it wasn't as good as what they did have. So, but I think I didn't look at all the cards, but they're obviously all around doing cleaning and housework, getting ready and stuff like that, and you can literally just serve it whenever you want. So they'll probably fall out and divorce within the next month. Just throwing these cards at each other. But anyway, Easter soon. Looking forward to getting to the shops to get me Easter eggs next week.
You could have gone last week.
I know. I couldn't believe when you posted that on LinkedIn. It wasn't even like one or two eggs though, was it? It was like entire shelves.
1 or 2 stands or displays. There's 2 or 3 displays dotted around the place, and you sort of go,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Someone commented, said they were in there last week on Christmas. They saw Easter eggs in places.
That's
And I'm kind of
shocking.
going, I get it. Planning and focusing and, getting things lined up, supply chain, I get all of that process. But as someone else almost said, these supermarkets seem to be wishing our lives away for us. And you're kind of going,
Yeah.
why is it just a bit like, it's just this constant convey. I understand that it's what it, but it does seem to me that it's getting more prolific and earlier and earlier. I mean, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
just me getting old that I'm becoming a bit more grumpy
No, I
about those
think,
types of things, but it's kind of like, really? It's like flipping.
but it is, isn't it? It's almost wishing it's April already. It's like
From a
jumping that.
weather perspective, yes, okay, all
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah, especially this morning. I'm just looking at my car. It's frozen solid outside.
you
But
mind your petrol, mind your fuel. Good job petrol doesn't freeze, otherwise
mine's it's diesel.
diesel doesn't
Oh,
freeze either.
I've got some news for you as well.
Do we need to sit down?
Now I've mentioned the car. No. Well, the old petrol cap thing.
Let me laugh at that cough.
The old petrol cap that I tore off in anger. I've left it for ages thinking it was like quite a complex job to fix. You have to go in the boot and take the stuff out and pull all the petrol cap out and that. So over the Christmas period, I started doing a bit more research into it. One part, it's 50 quid. You basically get a screwdriver, pop the 2 prongs up, pull it out, swap it, put the next one in. So I've literally ordered it this morning to come in. So I've been sat for months with tape all over my car, doing all sorts of rubbish with it. And literally it's one part that I can fit myself to fix the problem.
Did you order it in anger as well?
No, I ordered it with a smile on my face because it's a new year, it's a new me.
Will you fit it in anger as well?
I'll probably fit it in anger because I'll probably snap the old one, or the YouTube video that shows how easy it is doesn't tell you actually there's about 5 other things you have to do first as well, but I'll figure that one out.
Doesn't tell you that the screw is literally around the back. Oh, there you happen to.
Yeah, and you have to get your arm right in and bend it halfway along your forearm. But it does genuinely look fairly straightforward. So
Did you get it the right colour, or did you get it a different colour just to try to play a little bit?
no, so that bit's the actuator. That's the bit that sits inside that actually holds the cap shut.
Right.
So that will hold the black plastic bit shut, and then I do need the fuel cap cover, the white metal bit. So I've still got the one. It is slightly broken, so I'm going to see if I can actually just Gorilla Glue that back on and just whack it down.
Yeah,
or if not, I have found those on the internet as well, and they're like 40, 50 quid for a new one of those. So, yeah, and they're clip-ons. So that's not going to be too bad. So hopefully...
Get a different colour. Change it up.
Yeah, change it up. Just that one panel. Look cool.
One careful owner. When you
It wouldn't be, if it's black, it's not so bad because it's got quite a lot of black trim and it's got black wheels. So a black one might work-ish. But any other colour probably would not, apart from white.
You might have to make it disclose it as a modification to your insurance company, though. Potentially.
Oh yeah, true. Makes it worth so much more money, doesn't it?
And put your price up by 300 quid.
Yeah, typical. Anyway, there's 8 minutes of rambling. Most people have switched off by now. Should we talk about that?
We've learned that you've actually, you've made progress this year already.
I have already, so quite pleased with that, but also quite annoyed that I've waited 6 months for what I thought was going to be quite a big job and dreading the 500 quid to fix call.
Let's look forward.
Yeah, to where it's actually going to be 50 quid and I can do it myself.
At least you're annoyed with yourself, though, and not annoyed with the car now, so that's something. That's progress.
Yeah, until it starts popping open on its own again, then I'll be annoyed with the car because then it has to go back to Mercedes for a reset on it. So we'll see how that goes.
Anyway, what were we going to say before we go down another rabbit hole?
I was going to say, should we actually talk about data?
Go for it.
Quite possibly. So obviously, first one of the year. Let's do the normal forecast. Look forward. What do we think is on the horizon this year, and how much AI are we going to be talking about in 2025? Because I think it's going to be quite a lot. And judging by how many specialists I now see on LinkedIn who are generative AI specialists after using ChatGPT for 6 months, I think the rise of that is going to be interesting as well. There's always someone who's a specialist, isn't there? Web3, they all became specialists in about a week, and suddenly we're selling that. So where do you see things going this year? More of the same?
I think so. I wonder if there's going to be a refocus maybe on, is it the same as like with everything else where people jump, so they've gone so far down a path that they've actually realised that it's maybe not the silver bullet, that it's maybe, it is really good and it is here to stay and it will have benefit, but is there going to be cases where, I don't know, this isn't being negative, but is there going to be a situation where it starts to unravel a little bit, where people have maybe put too much faith in it without doing some of the groundwork and maybe checks and balances and just maybe thrown it in a little bit without really having a clear idea of what's happening? Is it that's going to maybe there'll be cases of people trusting it and going, oh bollocks?
Let's see if that can that pick that up. That's the Gartner hype cycle for generative AI, with us getting towards the top of that first peak.
Yeah.
Before it drops.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I should work for Gartner, shouldn't I?
Possibly. There is this doom mongering as you.
I'm not being doom mongering. I'm just saying, is it, it's here, it's going to be, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's not doom mongering. It's saying, is it going to be not a case of bubble bursting? Is it going to be a case of more reality and things unraveling a little bit, that actually we do maybe need to take a little bit more care with this than just throwing it in and thinking, brilliant, we've got everything sorted now.
I agree, and I think even some of the tools I use, I use a lot of AI and stuff I do, but I use one called Sintra X, which is a number of helpers, but there's a centralized brain, and you basically have to feed that brain every single day with information and data and stuff you're doing, stuff you're working on, and every day it kind of presents you with 10 or 12 questions to ask that you're prompted into then filling that data and information in. So it's got this repository or database of information that the helpers can then look at and say, right, I'm going to write you a social media post on X. Is that something you want or not? And you can yes or no it. It's not perfect, and it still says, I've done you this, and actually they haven't. They've just done a structure for it. You have to prompt it to actually do the stuff. But you have to get maximum value from it. They talk about feeding the brain every day. You do have to pump that data into it. I think on a small scale, that's kind of quite a nice metaphor, I think, for where a lot of companies should be thinking about this year or going this year. Is okay, those tools are there and they're there to help you, but actually now you need to take them and make them useful for you and your business. And to do that, you need to feed them. And you need to feed them the information and the data and everything else. And fundamentally, that will come back to everything we've kind of talked about over the last year. You've got to have the data available to feed the brain, to get it into the system, to start giving you answers or insights or anything like that into it. So for me, I think there's a lot of, I think on that doom curve, I think the drop off is a bit like you said, digital transformation was like this silver bullet, it was going to save everything and do everything. It hasn't worked out like that. I think AI, we've kind of get into that hype level, but actually I still see posts where it says things like, stop using PowerPoint and use this tool instead. And I've used those tools to create a PowerPoint slide deck. Quite honestly, they're shit, most of them. They don't.
You got the Swift in first.
I've got that one in, but there's no other word to describe it at the moment. And so you still need PowerPoint, you still need slides, you still need to do that because it can't take a 40-minute presentation and just turn it into a load of slides that are perfect. And images using words, things like that still aren't very good. So there is stuff to do. So I think they're still going to get better. I think they're going to get exponentially better and quicker, but at certain things and not other things. And it's going to be your data underneath really that powers a lot of that. But I think
sorry to cut across, but I think it's going to be funny because there's still a bias in a lot of it, isn't there? Or a danger of bias in a lot of AI. Whereas, and if you are the one asking the questions, you are the one putting this information into it, physically yourself putting it in with no real, you're not really connecting it necessarily straight into data, and data's going, you are intervening in that point. There's always a danger that you are still creating that bias.
Yeah.
You're asking a question in a bias, potentially with bias in mind, and so you either accept it, and there's also a case of like, if you trust it implicitly, then there's bias in that. You kind of,
yeah.
And there's always that scenario, isn't there? If you ask AI, and I can't remember who mentioned this at an event I was at, so if they're one of our listeners, and I do apologise, please shout. But it was someone that said that if you type in "show me a typical human," it's like a white middle-aged man or something. And then if you do know what typical, it doesn't matter how many times you ask it, you end up with the same outcome. And it's the same with sandwiches as well. If you say, "show me a sandwich," it gives you a sandwich. No, just show me the filling. It can't take the bread away because the concept of a sandwich without bread just doesn't exist.
Twist.
So it can't work it out. And it's, it's brilliant at what it's going to do, but there is still that concern that you still have to make sure that what you're putting in is clean, accurate, as you say, regular, feeding it with the right information without any bias at all. Because how many meetings have you been to where finance has their own slant on what they want to see and their own answers and their own questions? Marketing have their own answers and so on and so forth. That's going to create any type of slant on any information you're looking at is going to be biased one way or the other, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be there. So there has to be an acceptance that if you're using AI, you have to go check it, balance it. That makes sense. Fine. And I know the whole concept of it is to shortcut things or to make things faster or easier or better or whatever. But you still got to look at it. You still have to go, okay, I'm happy with that. That's fine. And not just blanket, implicitly trust everything it's saying.
Well, even when I did some work at one of the councils last year, and we were looking at how to use it for like their initial business cases, and kind of making sure that the business case scored let's say over 80% on the model we put in to say, yes, it's good enough now to take forwards. In that model, we asked, I can't remember if we used ChatGPT or something else, but let's assume it was ChatGPT. But we said, you're going to play 3 roles. You're going to come at this from the CFO perspective. You're going to come at it from the director of the service perspective, and you're going to come at it from, I can't remember the last one, another service. And each of you, this is your scoring criteria for what you're looking at in the business case. So at least then, when you were pulling it together into a summary, you were saying, let's look at this with 3 sets of eyes and see what the outcome of that document is. So again, you didn't just have is this good? Because ultimately most of them will tell you it is, because they're trained. They're just trained to do that. And sometimes, even with Cintra and ChatGPT, I will take the output from one and put it in the other, and say, what do you think of this, or how would you improve this, or what changes would you make to it, before you then move forwards with it. And it's those kind of things, I think, that people will need to get used to, that you can still trust your gut, still, you know your market, you know your job, you know what you're doing. So if something comes in and says it's 12 and you're thinking, well, it shouldn't be, challenge it, go back and test it, test the assumptions, test even ask it how it's worked out, why it's giving you the answer it's giving you. Go back and do that. And I think there's quite a lot of learning, I think, that people will do this year, hopefully, to almost like be more challenging to it, to understand why it said what it said. Or I've asked it to do scoring things and then said, explain to me why. So in Sintra, I asked for a basic CEO thing of kind of strategic work versus operational work, and it came back and said strategic work is almost like worth 3 times. You do a 3 times multiplier on your hourly rate. Operational work, you do a -1% multiplier, and that gives you the value of the work that you're doing. It's like, that looks good, but tell me why you've done it like this. What does this mean, and where have you got the sources from? And he goes back and comes back and goes, this is the research that's been done. This is why this is more valuable. This is that. So you can obviously justify then when I say to someone, focusing on the strategic work as the founder or the CEO, anything like that, is more valuable than you being bogged down in the day-to-day work that you're doing. And this is why, rather than just saying, here's 2 values, kind of which one is it?
It didn't go away when you asked it to justify it, so it didn't go away and start shortcutting and going.
Yeah.
Let me get back to you on that.
Just came back and just made it up. Yeah, it just sounded like the answer you wanted.
Somebody else.
But I hadn't said to it, I want strategic work to be a higher value or anything. I just said, how would you measure the 2? And it came back and did that. So, but I think people get more used to it and stop seeing it really as this tool that allows you to summarize meetings or do that, and actually see it as most like an encyclopedia of knowledge, that it's there's information, use it, but drops information into it, build your own knowledge databases, build your own little apps or whatever within ChatGPT, and train it to do what you need to do. So yeah, it's definitely here to stay, and it will definitely get better. I think seems to be a leaning towards people doing more video with AI as well. I think that's going to be something this year that people are focusing on. I don't think it's anything I particularly want or need. Possibly whether we replace you and me with a pre-generated script and 2 avatars.
It wouldn't be the same.
Wouldn't be the same. You can't knock out a podcast like this with avatars. I have seen that. Is it the Notebook LLM that does you give it a document and effectively it puts 2 people together talking about it, and as clever as it is, you can tell within about 3 seconds it's.
And there's no banter or shanter or comments or stupid swearing
or stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Or they don't cut over each other. There's kind of that nice little pause all the way, like it's like actors do.
You're not going to talk about petrol caps, are they?
No, and anger and rage and stuff like that. Just deviate on side. They stick to a script, funnily enough. So
stupid idea.
I mean, having a script would be a start. We start with
catch on.
Never catch on. One line. What are we going to talk about? Let's talk about this.
Off you go.
Yeah. So AI, yeah, massive. But I think in data world in general, information dashboards, pulling data together, data silos, I think all of that stuff is going to carry on and continue in the background. I think people are going to probably, hopefully, understand more about why it's so important to bring that together. I kind of I've seen a few business people who talk quite a lot about obviously going global and having global markets now, global audiences, and that's what social media and things like that are able to do these days. You're not limited to 20 miles, unless you're a physical tradie or something, you're not limited to 20 miles down the road from where you live. But all of that comes with having to understand markets, different ways of working, different cultures, and the data that sits all behind that as well. So,
for fear of being political, I think one of the biggest impacts this year, and I have no political persuasion whatsoever. I think they're all a bunch of whatever, you know what I mean? And anyone from the government is actually one of our listeners, then I do apologise, but it's just my own opinion. But,
I believe Boris is a big fan of the podcast, actually, yeah.
Well, that explains a lot, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Wrong target audience.
He's big on data. He uses them charts with COVID.
Just let me go on down that path again. I don't think he has a Scooby-Doo what's going on every day. I think he's less prepared every day than we are for this every podcast.
Yeah.
wakes up, doesn't have a clue what's going on, how many kids he's got, where they all are, who he's married to. Anyway,
Where were you?
we're going to get sued. Well, yes, Richard. My name's Richard Godfrey, and what was I going to say now? Yeah, I think and honestly, it's quite serious now. Actually, I think one of the biggest things that's going to impact a lot of things this year is the budget changes with regards to NI and all this. And I can a lot of people. There's a lot of chatter about it, and a lot of people saying that it's impacting projects, impacting resourcing and hiring decisions, because it's just, I don't know, it's not really growth orientated, is it? And I think I don't know what's going to come out of that, because I think a lot of people are saying it's a big problem for bigger any business that has any significant number of staff. It's just really quite not interesting. It's not even interesting how it'll work out. It's going to be, fascinating. It makes it sound exciting. You know what I mean? I can't think of the right word. It is interesting, but not necessarily in a positive way about what happens, because I can't see how that's going to be. When most of what they do is smoke and mirrors and just shuffling virtual money around anyway, I don't see the benefit of it.
No, I don't. It's ridiculous when you try and figure out like the totality of VAT and income and where it's spent, having more people employed with more free money to spend more to increase VAT and all of that stuff. You're probably not actually gaining anything by increasing NI. I'm not going to pretend I know how all the economics works, but you can watch your money and see where it goes and how it's spent. And they talk about funding the police, the NHS, and all of that stuff. But then you get 25% of it back anyway through kind of NI
with an accountant, right?
And then you get it back through VAT.
The biggest employer in the country is the NHS. So the biggest bill for the NI is going to be the NHS.
Yeah.
To fund, so it's self-fund. You kind of go, okay, there's going to be a balance. There's going to be a positive outcome, obviously, for them. But I don't see the logic behind it personally.
No.
Tesco said they're the biggest private sector employer, and it's going to cost them an extraordinary amount every year. And big pockets, they can probably suck it up. But if they do start to get pinched, they're then going to pass some of that cost on to the consumer, and then people are going to spend less. So as you say, the VAT's going to go down. People are going to be spending. Inflation's going to go up, and you're kind of going, what? And I get this moving parts. I'm not an economist, and there's very many moving parts. But when most of this is just, posturing and political, and you go, what is the point? It's so, I don't know.
I have a theory on this. Yeah, and I don't know whether it's mental or not, or whether it's fairly straightforward. But I think the Conservatives have played an absolute blinder. Is what I've done. I think they've taken 14 years of screwing the economy. They've borrowed heavily. They've put debt through the roof. And they've got to a point where they were like, well, if we win another election, we've got to try and fix this or sort it out. You think of the speed at which Rishi called the election and how quick it was, knowing he was so far behind in the polls that it was almost guaranteed they were going to lose. Labour have fallen straight into the plot of let's come in and try and fix it all day one, rather than saying, actually, we're screwed, but let's give it a year. Let's figure some of this stuff out and then work out straight in day one, budget one, bang, let's screw everyone. Conservatives are going, brilliant, no one likes Labour anymore. Reform are doing laps of the park, thinking this is great. Our 5 MPs are getting more coverage than anyone else. And I honestly think that the Conservatives have kind of deliberately lost to put a Labour government in place that almost had to, I suppose they could have waited, but almost had to make some of these really shit decisions and taxes and increasing and trying to fill these holes because that's what they've talked about, knowing that actually what they're going to do is damage everything, and what we're going to do, we're going to vote the Conservatives straight back in at the next possible point, because let's face it, there are really only two parties. And if anyone sits there shouting, oh, there should be a third party reform, they could all go vote Lib Dem, because we've had Lib Dem for 20, 30 odd years and no one's voted for them. So there's always been three parties. So it's all, to me, it just feels like a really long plan. Oh no, we're gutted. Oh, we've lost. Oh, let's spend 4 years telling Labour how crap they are. And then we'll have another election when everyone's so fed up because you know what Labour are going to do. They're going to take money out of the private. They're going to pump it into public. That's their model. And people will get fed up with paying more VAT, more tax, everything. And we'll just go back to almost having an immediate Conservative government in 4 to 5 years, unless they actually pull their finger out and do something decent. So I think they've both lined up.
He's too busy going off on holiday anyway, isn't he?
Yeah. So I won't say anything about him. Didn't want him. Did I? I did vote for Labour, but more to get rid of Conservatives.
It's your fault.
Yeah, but I don't think it was the lesser of two evils, wasn't it, really?
This is why I'm politically homeless.
Yeah, I'm going to start being politically homeless. Last time I filled in a form that you filled loads of questions in, and at the end it said, this is who you should support. It came out as Lib Dem. So that's where I sit on the fence.
Maybe you should go for that then.
Maybe I should, but they never win, so what's the point of voting for someone that's never going to win?
At least he's a bit more adventurous, isn't he? Like jumping off windsurf boards or whatever he was doing, abseiling.
Abseiling, yeah. He's having a great time. Anyway, I don't know how much of the future we covered there. Things are going to go well. Things are going to be busy. Data is always going to be key. It's everything we've talked about. And obviously we need more people outside of the data world to understand a bit more about data, the value it has, and how to use it to your own advantage. And as you say, in times that are going to be difficult in the next year or so, of making that data work to your advantage and really pulling it together and giving you the insights you need.
I've said a few times about it's an asset. It's a business asset. It's either used or produced by systems, departments, applications, processes. It's there. It's everywhere. And whether you have other assets in your business, such as stock, products, people, vehicles, building, whatever, you wouldn't have them sat around generally not doing anything,
not doing stuff,
not contributing, not adding value, even in the smallest way. But you are, as a business, most of what you do is unique. Your data is relatively specific to your organisation. So why would you not use it? It's gonna hold it. There's so many keys and clues and things that it's there. Yeah, it sounds a bit daunting. Yes, it can seem a bit complicated, but at the end of the day, unless you start to look at it, you just don't know what is possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, even with councils, even like their minutes and stuff. They're thinking of AI as summarising all the minutes of meetings, but then all they do is file it and say, are these minutes right? And again, you can go to another layer, can't you? Of right now, can someone analyse these minutes, tell us what we're doing or what we should be doing, what's next, when do we need to check, rather than just seeing it almost as an admin tool to speed up a particular process. Use it to interrogate the data, look at it deeper, find out what's going on and why, and then use that to drive yourselves forward. So I think there's still, I mean, luckily for you and me, there's still loads of stuff that needs doing. There's still loads of help. AI is going to be a big thing and it's going to help people, but behind that, there's huge amounts of work to do to get you in a position where AI tools are useful for you and can do what you need.
And if you don't know what data you've got, or you're not using it to support decisions at the moment, how can you be sure that what AI is telling you to do is right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's better than not looking at anything most of the time. It isn't. If it gets it wrong, then you make a decision blindly on it, and you end up in a whole world of AI pain.
Yeah.
Pain.
Well,
Anyway.
funny, I was going to stop, but I'm going to just jump in because I saw a post this morning actually on LinkedIn where someone had asked for legal advice, and they'd had to have send all the documents, then had an hour phone call, go through it, got all the detail back, and I think it was like $5,000 they said it cost them. They put the same document in ChatGPT and said ChatGPT gave them the answer straight away. And they were like, I think the post was, there you go, lawyers, there's no future for you or something. And then the first comment underneath it went, and who are you going to sue when the information's incorrect? He said, that's why they charged you $5,000. And it's like, well, there's a good point, because actually if you do, let's say you turn up to court and you go, well, blah, 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 and the judge goes, no, that's incorrect. If a lawyer's told you that, that's one thing. If ChatGPT's told you that, you haven't got a leg to stand on.
Your Honour, please just excuse me a second.
Yeah.
What's the answer to this question?
Yeah, that's almost what it will be like, where I'm sure the data in it is very, very good, but there will be nuances, or like we said, even hosting a podcast, there's bits you're going to miss if it's just an automated pre-recorded video sort of thing. So yeah, definitely use it, but learn how to use it properly and use it to start to understand your business data and where it can be an asset and where you need to think a bit more.
I agree. I concur.
Cool. Well, on that note, we should probably end this one, because
see you next year.
That's rare you and I concur. Let's do another forecast in 12 months and just leave this one running and see if we're right. No. Right. Lovely to speak to you. Happy New Year again.
Always.
And we shall speak again in a couple of weeks.
So you have your petrol cap out.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll give you the updates. I'll record the video of me fitting it just for laughs.
Yes.
You can see how irate I get just popping apparently two very easy pins out. So let's see.
I'll give it 30 seconds.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even give it that. So, right, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.